Hello and welcome to The Gain Line, Wales Online's live rugby debate show, coming to you on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube this afternoon. And we have a shock announcement. Wales have decided to name their team 2 days early to face Italy. Caught us all on the hop this afternoon. I was stuck on a Scarlet's press conference call. Ben was working on other things, and then the news dropped, so we all had to scramble. To get things up on our website and bring you the news. So I'm delighted to be joined by Ben James, one of our rugby writers, to discuss the team, get your comments in, and we'll do our best to pick up on them and bounce off them. But Ben, just to start with then, pretty much the same side that started against England a fortnight ago. Two changes. First one I want to pick up on is Corey Hill in for Adam Beard. Now, there's no indication in the press release, and there usually is on this sort of thing, that Adam Beard is injured. So let's just dive into that one a little bit and maybe try and find a reason for that.
Yeah, I think both of the changes in the starting 15, you sort of wonder if there's an element of fitness permitting sort of stuff going on in the background. And with Corey Hill, it's certainly an interesting one. Obviously, he came off the bench against England, scored the try late on that sealed the Triple Crown. But you still would have expected Adam Beard to be the man in possession of the jersey, starting alongside Alan Wynne-Jones, just because of how the line-out's gone in this tournament with Adam Beard in place. You think back to last year and finished article, but it's improving a large amount of that is down to Adam Beard being the sort of the line out caller and getting regular minutes in the role. So it's interesting to see Corey Hill come in for him. You got no doubt in your mind that Corey Hill's up to the task. He's captained Wales before. Think back to the Argentina tour 2018. Got plenty of experience, and with the last time Wales won a Grand Slam, he was one of the sort of the unsung heroes. So no surprise there, but it's interesting to see Jake Ball come onto the bench, which does lend to the idea that maybe Adam Beard is injured because he hasn't been involved at all throughout the first 3 rounds of the tournament. Obviously, he's heading to Australia in the summer. So his Wales career is, well, the end of it is very much on the horizon. So seeing him come back, it does suggest that maybe there is something going on with Adam Beard, and we'll find that out in roughly about half an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne Pivac expected to face the press in half an hour to explain his decision, and never know, maybe someone's going to ask him why he decided to catch us all on the hoof this afternoon. I've seen a few comments coming in. One from Emma Louise Foley, why so early, and Vincent Hink asking what's going on. If you are just joining us, we probably should have made it a bit clearer, but Wales have named their team to face Italy 2 days early. Why so early? Nobody's really told us. If I was going to give my best guess, I'd suggest that they've got a little bit fed up with the team leaking out a few days early in recent weeks. It's not uncommon for this to happen. Wales have done it before. They just try and get out ahead of any journalist getting a sniff and putting the team out ahead of time. So they've jumped the gun themselves and named early. We'll flash the team up on screen if you haven't seen it, so you can digest it with the rest of us. Let's move on then, Ben. The other change in the side that we see here is Gareth Davis starting at scrum half. Now, Kieran Hardy, obviously, hamstring injury has ended his Six Nations campaign. What do we make of Gareth Davis getting the start? I mean, with Hardy out of the picture, it's a bit of an opportunity with him. Thomas Williams, we thought he might be fit for this game, but it hasn't come to pass. Also carrying a hamstring injury. Good opportunity for Gareth Davis, really, to stake a claim here.
It is, you think back, 15, 16 months ago, and he was the only man really for the number 9 jersey. He's starting out in Japan, and it was very much his jersey. Rhys Webb was out of the picture in France. Thomas Williams was only really starting to sort of burst onto the scene. Aled Davis was in the squad at that time. Since then, and the scrum half jersey's become something of a revolving door, and Gareth Davis has fallen down the pecking order slightly. Sort of a couple of things with that. I think, defensively, I think where Wales have gone defensively hasn't suited some of his strengths. They're maybe not as aggressive with the spot blitzes, which is what led to Gareth Davis getting a lot of his intercepts. The kicking game, we've seen Gareth at times be a bit aimless. The first half at Murrayfield, certainly his box kicking invited a lot of pressure onto Wales, which is largely why they fell behind up in Edinburgh. But yeah, it is a chance for him to sort of re-establish himself in the Wales jersey. He's seen Kieran Hardy have a good impact against England. Thomas Williams, he'll now sort of be nipping back at the heels because he's always been one who's been desperately unlucky. But I think, once Thomas was, we assume, not deemed fit to play a part in this match, given he's not on the bench, it was always going to be Gareth Davis who started this one. Yeah,
absolutely. You touched on it a little bit there, Ben, as well. About the halfbacks, and we've had a few comments coming in from a few various watchers. And as you might suspect, Callum Sheedy's name is cropping up a lot. Duncan Davis would like to have seen Sheedy start. He's not the only person to say that in the chat. I think a lot of people. I've seen your predicted team as well. The team you would have picked a couple of days ago. You would have liked to have seen Callum Sheedy get a start in there. Richard Evans also saying it would have been worth giving him a shout. As it is, Dan Biggar keeps the jersey. What are your thoughts on that? I guess you would have liked to have seen Sheedy in there.
Yeah, I get both sides of this argument because, the worst thing you can do is go out to Rome and sort of think you're going to get the bonus point in the first 20 minutes and then, it's going to be sunshine and roses so you can chuck the ball about. You've got to grind Italy down over there and play the game as you would. The thing that Wales have done sometimes in the past is they've tried to sort of get the bonus point before they got the win in place. And I think, starting Biggar and bringing Sheedy off the bench does that. I did wonder whether they would be tempted with Sheedy simply because, Dan Biggar took some serious shots against England and, he sort of limped off after 45 minutes. No specific injury, really, just a few bumps and bruises here and there from all the treatment he'd had. Callum Sheedy, ended the autumn playing against Italy in virtually the same backline as this backline. Jonathan Davis was 12, George North was 13. I can't remember if it was Liam or Halfpenny a fullback, but Reece Samet and Adams were the wings. The only change really is that Kieran Hardy was scrum half that day and he's out injured. But so you'd have been confident that Sheedy could have come in and done a job with this backline. But I've got no real issues with starting with Dan Biggar and having Sheedy come off the bench. It's sort of role reversal, isn't it, from 2 years ago when Biggar was doing that job for Anscombe in the Grand Slam.
Do you feel like Biggar's under a bit of pressure? You're always under pressure in that jersey in Wales, and he's produced some good moments at times, but there's often criticism levelled at him. He perhaps doesn't have that spark that gets fans on the edge of their seat, and that attracts criticism. Whether that's fair or not is for other people to judge. But do you feel like he's under more pressure than normal at the moment?
Potentially, I think whenever a sort of new fly half emerges in Wales, the temptation is to disregard the old one and it's like magpies, really, isn't it? It's the new shiny object that sort of attracts us to them. I think Dan's been quietly solid. I thought against England in particular, he did a lot of good things in that sort of 45 minutes before Callum Sheedy came on. A lot of good kicking, a lot of good positional work. Maybe against Ireland and Scotland, he won't look on them as games he'll fondly remember, but he still did his fair share of good work. Wales number 10s are always going to be under pressure, and especially if Callum Sheedy continues to do what he's doing off the bench, at some point Wayne Pivac is going to give him a start.
Yeah, and we've got a comment coming in here. That's the wrong one. Willis Halaholo is getting a shout out from Richard Evans to start. Obviously, Pivac is stuck with Jonathan Davis and George North in the midfield, and Halaholo's on the bench for the third time now. Would you have liked to have seen him get a start? I mean, he's done well, hasn't he, in his two outings so far? Cast your mind back to Edinburgh with very little preparation. Thought he did well there. Particularly defensively, I think he's impressed. Made some really good decisions and jumped out of the line at the right times. But also finished off a few moves as well, which is what Wayne Pivac wants from him. Would you have liked to have seen Halaholo given a start?
I'd have liked to see him give him a start, but I think now that Pivac's moved down this sort of notion of John Davis being 12, it sort of limits what you can do with this match, because if you're thinking then that John Davis is going to be 12 against France, it's very hard to throw him in against France, having just played what did he play, like 50 minutes against England? That's basically the test rugby he's played, all year. He wasn't involved in the first 2 rounds, very short on minutes coming into the England game. I think it was always the plan to replace him quite early on in that game. So Willis Halaholo got a fair stretch of the match. So I think they knew really that they had to sort of keep that continuity, especially with George North still largely learning the trade at 13. Yeah, it's a very unorthodox Wales midfield. This, and it's only the 3rd time that these two have started midfield together, North and Jonathan Davis. So I think they still need to learn the ropes of playing with each other. And as much as it would be great to see Willis Halaholo get that start, I think common sense sort of reigns on that one. Yeah,
it's a comment here from Phil Highway as well. Again, Halaholo coming on the second half and gives him a chance against tired legs. He could cut loose, couldn't he, against a side like Italy when they tire. With his footwork in particular, can cause real problems in there. So there's a lot to be said for him being on the bench, I guess. One comment I did want to pick up on from Jamie Phillips: minimal change is the right call by Pivac, but maybe Faletau could have been rested and Wainwright started 8 after his excellent performance against the Ospreys. I know our colleague Mark Orr suggested that it may be an idea to give Faletau the week off, but he's been good. It's very difficult to drop someone like him. But I did watch that Ospreys Dragons game, covered that for Wales Online, and Wainwright for me was man of the match. He was absolutely outstanding at number 8 with Ross Moriarty at 6. I thought that there's a lot to be said for that as well. Would you have liked to have seen Faletau maybe rested for this one?
Yes, it's an interesting one. Obviously Faletau's workload in the last year, to be honest, it's only since the autumn that he's really started to pick up some of his form. But I think he's up there with Alan Wyn-Jones in the most matches played for Wales under Pivac. He's been a constant in the Wales team. And the Six Nations has been no different. He started all of them and been going back to Bath in the fallow week. So giving him a rest would make sense. I think the issues are that he works so well in tandem with Justin Tipuric that I think you do lose something if you do sort of take him away from that back row. Those two have worked really well together since Pivac sort of readjusted things late in the autumn for that Italy match in Llanelli, funnily enough. And then I guess from there, it's interesting, the bench. Obviously, Aaron Wainwright, you said, played really well on the weekend for the Dragons. You can look at him coming onto the bench sort of one or two ways. Depends how much you read into it. Obviously, first of all, him getting a bench spot ahead of James Botham is just fine reward for how he played for his region last weekend. But given that maybe Wainwright's seen as more of a number 8 option, it could be that Pivac's thinking, well, if we get 50 minutes an hour out of Faletau, we can take him off early and sort of wrap him in cotton wool ahead of the trip to Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. And one player we haven't really touched on today, but I've seen it mentioned quite a bit. Four players actually have gone back to their regions, been released by Wales this weekend. Johnny Williams, Nick Tompkins and Owen Watkin. And the fourth one is Jared Evans, Cardiff Blues fly half. Has not had a minute of action in this campaign. Many people sort of judge him as not quite the finished article yet. When he's good, he's very good, irresistible, and very difficult to play against. But there are still perhaps a few question marks over his game management, which is probably why he hasn't had a look in so far in this campaign. There was part of me after the England game that thought, well, I'd love to see Tomos Williams and Willis Halaholo play together in Rome and just let them cut loose and see what happens. That's probably a bit reckless, and it goes against everything that my sort of risk-averse personality stands for. But it would have been nice to see Jared Evans get a run. He's not going to get it. Do you feel for him?
Yeah, you do feel for him. You do wonder whether he could have been released back to the Cardiff Blues for some of the other weekends. He's largely been holding tackle bags, you imagine, for the last month. The Blues have had a couple of games, Ben Thomas started 10 in one of them, Tuvey in the other. And it would have done good for him to have minutes. You think back to Sam Davis 2017 and how that sort of affected him being in a Six Nations squad where he didn't really see much action on the pitch. And for Jared, he's clearly the third choice fly half. in Pivac's mind at the minute, and it is a shame that he's not been involved at all. I understand why he's not involved this weekend. I mean, you're just not going to bring him in now, I don't think, for the Rome clash, even though, as you say, it would be nice to see him in a Wales jersey. I think he's never let Wales down when he's come on under Pivac. I think he's shown he can manage a game better than people expect him to. I think back to Dublin last year in the Six Nations, Bigger went off relatively early. Jared came on and looked really solid. Same against France, looked really solid. But yeah, it's just not happening from the minute, is it?
No, it's not. And I just want to pick up on one final point before we let you get off and get on the press conference call. Got one more comment from Phil coming in here. Everything Pivac has done in the 3 matches has been excellent in selection and replacements at the right time. Establish a platform, then use your bench. His judgment has been great. Now, I actually think Pivac deserves a lot of credit for that. I've kind of given him a hard time at times in this campaign, and particularly early on when I didn't think they were setting the world alight. But one thing I will always say about Pivac is that he has a good feel for the game, and he doesn't. You hear a lot of coaches criticised for preconceived replacements and making substitutions at set times in games. But I think Pivac really watches the game, gets a feel for it, looks at the data, and sees what players have got more in the tank and what players need to come off. You look at the way Ken Owens played pretty much all of the first 2 games before Elliot D came on a bit earlier against England. But I would assume that's because Ken ran himself into the ground because it's England, isn't it? But I think Pivac deserves a bit of credit for the way he's used his substitutions, particularly.
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. I think he's done a really good job. I think if you asked a lot of Wales fans, looking at the benches coming into these first 3 matches, I think most would have expected maybe the scrum to go a little bit awry when Wales were forced to make changes late on in the tight 5. But it's been the complete opposite. You look at Edinburgh, bringing on Leon Brown for those series of scrums, put a different picture in the referee's mind, and he stood up well to the challenge. And it probably stopped Scotland getting a penalty try. I know they scored in the corner through Stuart Hogg, but it sort of changed the complexion of how that sort of last 20 was going in terms of scrums. And I think it's just testament to sort of the environment that the Pivac lays down, and is sort of it comes to the culmination in the last 20 minutes. Obviously, he's really good at what he does with replacements, but it's also the responsibility he puts on players. You tend to see a lot of the Wales players that almost feel like they're running the show in that last 20 minutes, and that comes from the responsibility that basically Pivac puts on them. I think Rhys Patchell spoke about it last week and spoke about it really well. Of he thrives on momentum, and he makes it feel like once you got a win under your belt, he makes it feel like it's a certainty that you're going to keep winning. Patchell spoke about it really well when they won the Pro 12. I think they lost the first 4 games. But once they started getting win under their belts, it felt like, this is a guaranteed thing that they're going to go on and do well. That's something that he's done really well this campaign and deserves a lot of credit for.
Absolutely. We're going to have to leave it there. I'll just pick up on a few quick comments from Brandon Wadley. What about Rhys Webb? Webb unfortunately picked up a shoulder injury in the Ospreys-Dragons game with Pivac in the stands. Felt sorry for him, really. That was a big opportunity for Webb to impress, and didn't go his way. So he's. We hope that's not too serious, but he had to leave that game early. Matthew Potwell, Sheedy deserves a start. It's criminal, he says. And then Matt Summers, Ken's been absolutely immense coming back from injury. No rugby, the barnstorming, huge contacts. Lion. Tough to disagree with that. Right, we're going to have to end it there, folks. Thanks for sending your comments, but we've got to run off now to get to the press conference. There's going to be lots happening throughout the evening now, with lots of reaction from Wayne Pivac and the Wales camp. And of course, you can catch all of it on Wales Online.